Okay, everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Miss Blessing, and this is I Teach with Miss B. And today we're going to be learning about guided and independent practice in online teaching. I know a lot of teachers do not really know what guided practice is, and sometimes in my live stream, when I talk about guided practice, you guys get confused which one is guided, which one is independent. So I'm going to teach you what guided practice is and what independent practices, and this is very important in online teaching, especially when you're structuring your slide. It helps you to structure your slide. It helps you to know what to do at every point in time. And if this is your first time here, please click on the like, subscribe, and share button, and let's go into the video. Let's discuss what guided practice is and what independent practice is as we move ahead in this topic. All right, so let's go to the topic of the day. Let's start with guided practice. What is guided practice, and why do we need guided practice as tutors, as online tutors, as physical classroom tutors? Why do you need your lessons to have guided practices in as much as we are teaching? So let's look at the definition of a guided practice. Now, for guided practice is the kind of practice that is done alongside or together with the student. As you're working, as the student is working, you're working. That is where you guys do guided practice together. So usually guidance practice is usually done with the tutor. The tutor guides the child on with the tasks. Okay, so a lot of tutors may make one mistake. I see tutors talk a lot. Like the tutors keep on talking. No, guided practice starts with the beginning of the lesson, from the beginning of the lesson, from the hook, from the introduction. That's where your guided practice starts. Guided practice is more of you, the teacher, asking question 80% of the time. You're asking the student question based on the lessons and what the student think. One thing is, at the end of the lesson, the student understands during class, but after that time the student has forgotten. Why? Because you, the teacher, you have been talking a lot, and the student is not really understanding what you're saying. So let's look at what guided practice is. So guided practice is the stage in the lesson where the teacher and the student do their activities together or do the work together. That is what we call guided practice. Okay, it's not the time where you leave the student alone. It is a stage where you walk them through the concept. For instance, if you let me give you this instance here. Think of guided practice like teaching a child how to ride a bicycle. You don't just explain and then tell the child ride the bicycle, right? No, but you hold their hands, you teach them how to put their leg on the pedal, you hold their hands, and then you begin to encourage them, you correct them, and you guide them. That is guided practice, and that is what it is in online teaching. It means the student is practicing the skill, but you are the one helping them step by step. Let me use a subject for instance. Maybe you are teaching English comprehension, right? You could read the passage together. Then when you read the passage, you in the course of reading the passage, you highlight words that they do not know. Okay, so when they highlight words they do not know, you identify the key points, and then you ask question based on what they understood from the passage, and then you move forward from there. Let me use maths for an example. You could get a maths question, you could get a maths question, you could get the solution of the math, put it there and tell the child, okay, can you tell me how this answer was gotten? Or can you explain the steps on my screen? Can you explain it to me? That's you asking the child. The child is explaining this it to you, but the child is also learning. Or you could just get a mathematical question and say, someone says this is the answer. Can you give me the answer to this particular question? And the child begins to think about how the person got that answer and tells you if it is true or not. At that point, you're watching to see what the child can do and what the child cannot do. That's guided practice. So don't expect independence without the guidance. Guided practice helps students to build confidence, reduce their fear, understand the process, and learn the correction immediately. So when they're doing guided practice, if they do something wrong, you are correcting them at once. Okay? Because you guys are solving the subject or solving the questions together. Okay, how will I put it? It is a stage where you give them support. Okay, and this is where the real teaching happens in guided practice. This is where the real teaching happens. So let's go on from here. Okay, I hope you understand the explanation. Now for Guided practices, just like I said, you read the paragraph together, you model how the key point is going to be, and then you solve format, you solve one or two questions together, and then you give them the one they're going to do by themselves, still in the guided practice. Then for grammar, maybe you explain the concept and you teach examples together before letting them work alone. Okay, now let's go to independent practice. Now, independent practice is where the child works alone. As the name implies, independence. Independence. This is where you know whether what you taught the child understood it or not. This is where you know whether you did a good job teaching the child or not. If a child is not able to do a task independently on their own, know that you have not taught. Know that the child did not understand it. At this point, you're not going away from the picture. You are still going to be there, but you or your job is just to monitor to ensure that the child is doing the job or doing the work um, on their own. Okay, so the idea behind independent practice, and this is the one that you usually put on the one note where the child will do by themselves. You're not giving them any clue. Maybe you might give them clues, but you're not telling them what to do at every point in time. Okay, so if you taught sentence structure, you might ask the student to write a sentence independently. If you did math, you might give them a solution and tell them to solve that particular thing independent. If you did counting, like counting in numbers, at this point you stay back and say, okay, can you count 1 to 10 for me? And the child is counting. That is how you know if what you taught today or what you taught during the guided practice, the child actually understood it or not. Okay, you monitor, you observe, you give feedback. Okay, afterwards, not immediately. Feedback is not given immediately. You give feedback after what the child has done their task. So if the if the child is feeling like, oh, they need your help, it's okay to guide them. You can guide them, tell them, okay, you can do it like this, you can do it like this, but never, or how will I put it, don't end up teaching again when you're doing independent practice. Independent practice is for them to do it. So you must become more like facilitators, not answer, just like it's on my slide. Don't be an answer machine. Okay, guide the child. Your job is to guide the child little by little. Okay, don't overdo it, don't overhelp them. The helping part comes in the guided. After the guided, independently they should be able to work, they should be able to do their tasks, they should be able to do the things by themselves. Okay, so that is guided and independent practice for you. Okay, so if you taught sentence structure, the child should be able to write sentence on their own or paragraphs on their own. If you did multiplication practice in maths, the child should be able to solve them without assistance. If you taught essay writing and independence, let them be able to write a paragraph on their own. Let them guide them. You've guided them before. They should be able to do it on their own using the tips that you have dropped. So if you don't drop a good tip, they will not be able to follow. So your guided is where the actual learning takes place. Independence is where you know if the learning has taken place. Okay, so how do we distinguish between both practices? The teacher in active learning, the teacher guides. In independent, the teacher just facilitates. Okay, you're just there to monitor. Okay, so that is like the I do, you do, we do policy or learning style. So when we're distinguishing between the two, supports actively in guided practice and the work is done together. And independent practice, the student works alone, the teacher observes more, the student applies learning independently, and understanding is tested. That's for independent. So if you teach only without explaining, you're not doing a good job. Okay, so you guide when you're teaching, you guide in the guided practice, and then independent practice, the child does it on their own and you mark and you give feedback. So your lessons should be tailored alongside the independent and guided practice. Is that okay? All right. So your lesson should have both the independent and guided practice in the lesson planning. So when you're planning your lessons, plan with this in mind. The first 5 minutes is your hook. Then after your hook is more like your introduction to your topic, right? After your hook, you have the guided practice. In the guided practice or the lesson proper, you have your guided practice where you teach a child what to do. And then after that, independent practice, you have your main one, okay? Which is the feedback. You have the feedback and you score your students. So please click on the like, subscribe, and share button if you've learned something. So let's look at the importance of balance of your independent and guided practice. So consequences of lack of guidance is if you teach only and explain without guided practice, the students will become confused because they are the one talking. It becomes more like a lecture instead of or a lesson. And again, it will make the child to be really dependent on you. You tell them to do something, they'll be asking you over and over again. So if you're not there, they are not able to do it on their own, and that means you have not taught. Learning has not taken place, and the teaching goal for is for the child to be independent. Okay, at least the child should be at the end of the class. The child should be able to say, "Oh, I can do this on my own." If you give them homework, they should be able to do it on their own. They will not come back the next class and say, "I did not understand the homework. That's why I did not do it." So these are the things you need to look out for when you are preparing your slides for your lesson. I hope you've learned something today. Please click on the like, subscribe, and share button. And if you need videos on teaching tools and how to teach online, I have videos, tons of videos on my YouTube channel. Please go ahead, click on the like, subscribe, and share button, and follow. Okay, follow. um Group class training is coming up in the month of June, so please get yourself prepared. The group class training is going to start on the 6th of June. Prepare yourself ahead for that group class. If you've not joined my WhatsApp channel, please go ahead, click on the WhatsApp channel and join. If you want to subscribe for membership, I have perks for members. You could also click on the membership button and join subscription. We have three groups. We have the tribe, we have the elite, and we have the besties group. So each of them have different perks that follow them. So go ahead, click on the like, subscribe, and share button. Until I see you again in my next video. Bye for now.